Okay, I'm right here. And this is Katie from Hart-Variations. We're in her studio in Oakland, California. And so yeah, Katie, tell us, what is Hart-Variations and what do you do?
Hart-Variations is handmade jewelry using items from the natural world, all ethically sourced. I don't harm any creatures in my process. I've always been a lover of the natural world and science, so this kind of allows me to kind of blend that in with art as well. And this is my studio.
And you work with different types of insects, right? Animal skins.
Animals, and so snakeskin, this is snake shed. Snake sheds its skin multiple times a year. Here's also a little small shed. It's really beautiful and translucent, so it works well within the glass. I also use butterflies, moths, some wasp nests, little skulls from owl pellets, like this little mouse skull right here, and jawbones, and basically anything that will fit into a box but also withstand the heat that I'm going to apply when I melt the metal around it. So these are all kind of in-process pieces. I begin with cutting the glass first, and then I layer in the material itself, and I wrap this copper foil around it. My process is the Tiffany method of stained glass, called copper foil as well. So the foil adheres with the mixture of silver and tin that is they call it silver solder. And so once the pieces are finished, they look like the ones that were in that first shot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, how long have you been doing this? Like, when did you get started?
I got started in 2009. I took a workshop on stained glass soldering for jewelry. And at the time, somebody had given me a shed snakeskin, and my mom had given me a bucket full of little skulls from owl pellets and other bones, knowing that that is where my true interest lies.
Yeah.
Creatures from the natural world. So I discovered they could be put into the jewelry.
So like you have some piece of jewelry which you're making right now, which is in the middle of some process?
Yes. So these will become necklaces, different styles. Let's see if I can remember how they go. I can't, sorry.
That's pretty cool. Take your time, please.
Yeah, so sometimes I have to sit to mark them so I know which way that they go in the end. Some of these will have multiple jump rings on them. This one will have another part that links to it on the bottom. And these will become necklaces. And then I do earrings and bracelets, rings, and other things.
That's beautiful. We got folks from Berlin, right? Berlin.
Yeah.
Do you ship internationally?
I do through Etsy, yes. It's really great. I have a website shop as well as Etsy, but Etsy does ship internationally. So
Nice.
I just sent a bracelet a month or so ago. So
Can you take, let's take one of the finished pieces, and I just want to place it next to as you're working through, so we always have a view of what the finished piece might look like.
Also, does the snakeskin work as a preservative, or?
well, when the piece is finished itself, the piece of jewelry, it's pretty airtight. It is a good idea to not swim with it or get wet or take a shower, etc. But there is no need to preserve it in any way aside from the glass. If you leave it out in the sun forever, it may fade over time, but that's not really an issue. The snakeskin itself does last for a long time, and as well as the wings and the feathers. This is the macaw feather right here, and some of my Instagram and Facebook followers yesterday probably saw that before I actually soldered it. So that's the finished piece. Really brilliant green color.
Wow.
This is the sunset moth wing, same as this right here.
How do you get all your all these different insects? Where do you source them?
I source from several different companies that have been working in the insect industry for a long time. So they've been working with other butterfly farms that preserve rainforest over there, and so they're grown in that environment. They live a longer life there. It protects the land. The people that grow these insects are very careful about knowing what to feed them, because if you grow insects, you need to know how to care for them like any other animal. So they live their long, full lives and are collected after their natural deaths. And these insects are grown usually for educational purposes, right, for museums, etc., as well as other artists like me. And then other insects like bees I find just on my driveway after they've naturally deceased. And in case anybody doesn't know, they should Google what owl pellets are. It's a byproduct of when the owl eats the animal. This is the fun science part. They regurgitate the rest of their meal, which is bones that they cannot digest. And so again, those are also sold to schools around the country and probably in other parts of the world too, and children can learn about anatomy and bone structure, etc.
Let's talk about your process of
Yeah,
making.
process. Can we see like part of how you're doing, how you make some?
Sure, I can just pull over some. We start with the glass, and they come pre-cut. These are micro-thin, like microscopic slides. And I have a glass cutter here, and I'll just run. It took me a long time to kind of get comfortable with the glass cutter, but basically it's process.
So as you can see, these are all handmade by her in her studio.
Starting with the glass. So I
can
make
exactly
my cut,
see the original process here.
and I crack it, and then I have two pieces. And I won't do this on camera, but I clip my corners because you don't want them to be too sharp for the wearer as well as the metal and the other parts of the process. And that is when I then take a piece of glass here, and I'll take the wing. So this is a blue morpho, which is really beautiful. It has these eyes on the other side. It's interesting because a lot of insects, especially butterflies, they're made to kind of scare away the predator. So the eyes make them appear as if they are larger, as if they're birds, so birds won't eat them. And then I take my glass and...
Do people usually request like what type of color they want? How do they usually buy your products? And when you showcase the product, because each one of these wings are very different, right? Like you can never find the same.
Yes. So on Etsy, everything is made to order, and I do include in the description that, you know, just like any other natural, you know, a flower, anything from the natural world, there's going to be variants, you know, from season to season or crop to crop. So could be little differences in the butterfly, but it's pretty interesting how almost perfect, you know, they really are, and how consistent they are. And there's certain types that are more inconsistent than others. This sunset moth, for example, just has a lot of really organic shapes in there, those rounded shapes, whereas some other butterflies may be a little more structured, like the stripes on this butterfly here, the swallowtail.
Yeah.
These are beautiful.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. And again, I want to say that I do not harm any creatures in my process, and I want to, you know, give them a second life. And also, I just feel like it kind of brings in a childlike quality to the wearer and reminds us that at the end of the day, you know, we're all living here on this earth, and there's this, you know, beautiful nature around us, if you will.
And for those that's joining us in the Buckstick, you can see some of the products in her store. On the top, you can browse through them, and you can inquire about them on her Etsy store.
So here I'm applying the copper foil, and this has an adhesive backing to it, and comes in different colors on the backing, but it's always copper because copper adheres with the silver solder. So I want to make sure that it's even on both sides. And right now I'm on camera, so I may not notice all the details, but I'll then burnish it, and I have some other tools and trim it.
Yeah, and thanks for joining, Ratha-chan.
So then once I'm done wrapping this piece, it'll look more like this, and that is when I'll go apply the metal, melt it around the edges, and make it into a finished piece. So it's probably 4 to 6 steps of a process, you know, but there's a lot to owning your own business and being your own boss. That, you know, there's the ordering of the pieces. For over a year now, I've really, even more than that, spent a large portion of my time just making sure that I am ethically sourcing and getting to know my suppliers, and I'd love to be able to travel to those countries someday. And also just spending more time trying to answer questions from customers and, you know, people on Instagram and Facebook, and that's kind of the fun part of it as well. And you know, getting to know the people and the products. And I met these guys at the Renegade Craft Fair, and so that's a really neat place for all of us creative types to gather and sell our items, but also gave me, you know, the opportunity to meet people, talk with people one-on-one.
It's an expression. It gives you a chance to express your creativity.
Yes,
We
yeah.
really appreciate you sharing this process with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
And is there I noticed that a lot of your jewelry have these triangle or hexagon type shapes. Is that your choice, or how did that come about?
Well, you know, it's funny. It's actually, I didn't really like geometry as much as I liked algebra growing up, but I've been drawn to geometry itself, and also I do study astrology, and so sacred geometry. It's kind of everywhere, but honestly, it started because, you know, the glass comes in squares and rectangles, and once I learned how to cut glass, it's kind of getting, some of these shapes were byproducts, like this ring right here that I call the cathedral shape is actually the inside of a square when I cut the triangles off on either side. But it is intentional, and it's also just kind of reminds me of being a kid when you give you those colored blocks, you know, that were like red triangles and yellow diamonds, and putting them together. So because I made art before I made jewelry, and I've been always interested in structure. At the end of the day, it's really literally like the structure of the human body, the planet, you know, trees. That's kind of what I love about jewelry, and also combining the pieces and the shapes in a different way that really helps the viewer to, you know, see the butterfly or see the feather, but kind of give it a new life, not just in the piece of jewelry, but in the shape that it becomes.
So after this, wrapping it up with the copper foil, what's the next step?
The next step is I need to finish burning this, but then I'll take it into my soldering room.
Okay, let's do that.
Go there now. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, let's take a look at the rest of our studio here. So, wow, what is this thing in the wall here?
That's a large-scale honeycomb that I built.
Oh, wow.
It's a sculpture. There's more parts of it, and that was from an art show that I did, I think, in 2007, sorry.
so yeah, the products, Katie's products are available on her Etsy store as well as on boxteak.tv.
And here's some of us laid out again. And you can kind of browse. If you're just joining us, you can browse through some of the products on the top. We've put a selection of her work here that you can see here. So you can directly, and then you take custom orders as well, right?
I do, yes. Actually, I have a couple.
How do people usually work with you on custom orders? Like, how does that work usually?
Etsy is really the best and kind of easiest way to do it. Sending me a conversation through Etsy, and then I'm able to build a custom order. So, you know, for instance, I've also used people's ashes of their pets or loved ones. You know, the process that I use for making jewelry is really unique and interesting because it can, you know, it preserves the item, and the wearer can carry it along with them. So yeah, contacting me through Etsy is really good. You can also contact me through my website, direct message me through Instagram. I welcome all custom orders. It's just a matter of if I can fit it inside of the box, and if it will withstand the heat.
In fact, yeah, they can also get to you through the boxteak.tv app.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so they can, so once they browse through the products on the top, if they're interested in any of them, they can inquire about it directly through there, and that'll get to
cool.
Get to your inbox.
So we will be moving to the soldering room shortly?
Yes, we will. Let me just finish up this little trim here.
Oh yeah. This is very intricate work, as you can see.
Usually take a little more time doing it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we're just doing demo.
this is live.
Yeah. This is live demo.
Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of pieces because, as I mentioned, they're sensitive to heat, so I want to stagger them.
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving to the other part of our studio here. Just join us in the next room. Like, usually how long does it take to
On Etsy, I usually say 3 to 5 days. Somebody is sending me the snakeskin from their pet right now, so that lead time.
Area or what do you usually?
Sure. It's officially my soldering room. It's just the back room of my.
And what's the turnaround time if they order it? Like usually, how long does it?
3 to 5 days business.
Oh, this is
Can you hear
serious.
me
Look,
with
we
my
got the,
yes?
yeah.
Safety first. So, and we're waiting for the soldering iron to heat up, which will just take a couple of minutes. And can you hear me through my mask? A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my. Here, I'll take it off of this. I have my flex here, and this is a very important process of the stained glass technique. So what I'll do first is run a layer on the copper foil. So this is cleaning the surface area. And then I will pull my jump rings out, which I'm going to connect to the pieces to make them into a necklace. And I also want to apply a little flux there. And then it's just a matter of soldering iron heating up. Are there any questions while we have
No,
a little bit of time?
not right now. Everybody's just looking at it.
Just watching the process.
Yes.
Let's see here. So, still a little cool, but I want to do one side at a time. And I have a little fan down here in case things get too hot. I usually have it on so I can cool the pieces down. So I have to hold still while this surface area cools.
Well, I was expecting a lot of noise from this. Yes.
So that's construction. So these do get a little hot. So I have my trusty clothespin here. You can see that little brown spot. It's because of the heat, so we want to let that cool. We'll move on to this piece. This is one of the more heat-sensitive wings, so we're good on that so far.
Is this actually usually like, if you don't be careful, is it pretty dangerous? Like, you're pretty used to it?
Not really. I mean, you just have to be careful of it. Ventilation masks, gloves. We usually have a fan on and the door shut. And then the one thing is heat. You want to be careful with pieces getting too hot for your hands. But I have multiple tools here in case I need them to hold the piece with. But also, I kind of use my fingers to make sure that I'm actually going to take off my mask. I'm almost done. How hot the piece is, feeling that is kind of an important part of the process to know that I'm not heating it up too much. So basically, once the piece is smooth all around, we then do the fun part of connecting the jump rings. And normally I do wear my mask during this part. Just want my mom to know. So a lot of it is just being very, very still and allowing the piece to cool. I might have to go back and adjust that. And then I also have rulers and pliers in case I need to, measure anything to make sure it's straight on there, etc. I'm going to finish the sides on this piece.
How long does it take to dry? Or once it...
When it cools?
Yeah.
It takes a few seconds, but it really depends on how, the surface area, how long I've been heating the piece up. As I said, normally I'm working on more pieces at one time to allow for the cooling. But usually just a few seconds. Like that's cooled. And I'm going to go back and straighten this jump ring. And for all you stained glass people out there, you can see this peak right here is because I need to add a little more flux. So I learned this technique many years ago, and I don't really know any other stained glass people, and I've asked questions at my local stained glass store, which has been really helpful, but a lot of it I've just kind of been learning along the way, so I have different techniques, and there's some stained glass tools that I don't use because my space is so small, because usually stained glass people, they use a larger surface area because they're making larger things, but this is basically what it looks like. Before I'll then go back into the studio and I'll clean it and add a layer of patina. So yes, it does start out silver. I prefer to keep them oxidized in the end. I think the black acts as like a nice neutral frame to really make the this is a beautiful piece because
you can see
the sunset moth wing is really nice and shimmery. And you can see my nice bike back here. But there's a lot of movement in these wings, and the way that the light catches them, it's really beautiful. So
thank you.
There you go.
It's beautiful. Great. So again, if you're just joining us, you can browse the rest of our products on boxteak.tv, and you can also check out her website, Hart-Variations.com, and her Etsy store. And you're very active on Instagram as well, right? So that's
yes, I love Instagram.
Social media areas.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.